I'd like to call this Monday, July 1st work session to order. Okay. Start with the fire chief.
We're still working the carbon monoxide and smoke detector alarm program. In addition, we have some money left in the grant program, and it's enough. I've located. They actually have a device for hearing impaired people, which works off the sound of the smoke alarm. So you don't need a special smoke alarm. It'll work off the one that's already in your bedroom. And it's actually a combination alarm clock, sounding device, and bed shaker. So it actually would cause the bed to vibrate to wake the person up. So we have enough money to buy about 12 of those, and we're going to get them. In the process of making the installation so far, we've identified people that have disabilities that could affect their ability to get out in case of a fire. We're going to go back and look at them and identify those people that would be, that these would work best for. I'd like to thank, I've got a couple thank yous. Fred Baumgarten recently held a barbecue and a walkthrough for the fire department at the Grundy Commons building. It gave approximately 50 firefighters the opportunity to walk through that 7-story building in a non-emergency situation, and it was very enlightening to see how that building's laid out. I'd also like to thank the council, the mayor, borough manager for the support in the Dave Wintz Memorial Program. I'd also like to thank the Senior Citizen Center for providing a location for refreshments, the Redevelopment Authority for providing the podium, and the Tullytown Fire Company for providing an honor guard and a bagpiper. Last thing I have is I've submitted nominations for the 4 firefighters who were involved in the rescue in December to the National Liberty Museum in Philadelphia, who also have a program for recognizing heroes, and that award, if they're accepted, will be held in September.
Any questions for Herbie? Tony?
Nope.
Pat?
No, sir.
Eddie?
The house that burned on Pond Street,
Yes.
okay, would you get information on when they plan on fixing it, or, because I know it's boarded up, and I know that some people are homeless because of it?
Generally, John Miller would have that information.
Okay.
But I can tell you that from the time that a fire occurs, I mean, I've seen houses in town sit almost in that condition for almost a year before
Yeah, I've
they were
seen
able
that
to
on
get
my
all
own
of the
street.
insurance
Yes.
settled and the house repaired.
Okay. And that doesn't seem to cause any danger for anybody walking by or anything, right?
I haven't seen anything that's hanging out that would
Right.
fall down on somebody, no.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Robin,
No.
Herbie, I got one question.
Okay?
A couple senior citizens or people approach me on these smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. Can they pick them up and have their son or daughter or somebody put them in, or do you have to put them in?
Well, generally, we've been installing them, and because we've gone to people's homes and found, in one case, a smoke alarm that had been in the box for 15 years. So I don't have, we've struggled at times getting them installed, but I need to have a way to verify that they're installed.
Properly.
And that's the
what
other issue.
I said that the problem is if your son puts it in, or a family member, they may not put it in the right location. It's, a lot of people are funny. They want people in their homes, so.
Yeah, I mean, we are not doing hazard inspections. We're not doing building inspections.
No, I understand. I'm just.
We're there to provide the devices
asking
and
the
to provide
question because
education.
somebody told me to ask you a question. Can they pick them up and put them in themselves?
We have not done that.
Okay.
If they call or register, if they leave a phone message on the fire chief's thing, we'll get to those people as quickly as possible.
No, I know you do. I'm just saying some people just, I'd rather have my,
Yeah. We've had people call up, make an appointment, and then when we showed up, change their mind. They just didn't want them.
All right. Chief.
The training last month consisted of sending officers to accident investigation school and several officers to defensive driving school. And regarding our new police radios, as I indicated to Mr. Dillon, we need to order no later than September 30th of this year. I gave my numbers last year, and since then I've attended a ordering workshop with some of our county radio technicians, and we were able to trim down a few $1,000s from what I originally thought it would cost us. The county is offering, as you know, a loan program on a promissory note at 7 years, 1.5% interest. And the total for the police department would be $183,515.96. So broken down yearly, approximately, it would be about $27,633 a year. We would have to supply them annually. So,
And how many years the note?
7 years, 1.5% interest.
And what's the life expectancy of the radio?
But the ones we have now are working pretty good. We've had them for, I think we've had them for 12 years. Yeah, the radios last, it's just the system they changed on us.
Okay.
That's
Well,
all I
I'm
have.
sure you and Jim will work that out and get it back to council.
But once we decide to order, we have to send someone up there to sign all the paperwork, and then it has to be brought down to the ordering location, and then they'll set the order in motion.
You guys have to do the same thing, all new radios?
Yes.
Or how are you getting that money?
If we borrow it, we're looking at, let's say if a fire company, the cost is $70,000 total, and some of them were a little higher, some were in that range, we're looking at $10,000 a year that the fire companies would have to, a fire company would have to pay back to the county. We only get $16,000 from the borough, so you can see what an impact these radios will be on
So
the
you're
fire
saying it's
companies.
like a $40,000 a year or 50 with 5 companies?
That's pretty close. Might be a little bit more than that.
Here's what I don't understand. I know the county switched, this is all because they switched frequencies and they went to this whole new system. But what happens if you can't borrow this money?
They don't, there's no contingency for that.
I mean, you're a volunteer company, struggling as it is right now to make ends meet. And you're put a burden on you that's, you know, what's the cost of all the fire radios?
They were over 200,000.
200,000?
300,000. Last year, the total between the police and the fire when we submitted the redevelopment authority grant was, I believe, around 450.
So we got to come up with 450, maybe $500,000 to buy radios because of the new system that the county elected to put. And it's not only us, it's throughout the county.
Right.
But we're struggling as it is to survive here. I mean, it's a big burden to be putting on volunteer fire companies and things, even taxpayers. I don't know. And the county's loaning us the money?
The county can, I mean, we've submitted grants at every opportunity to try to, come up with the money. And this is the way the county, the last set of radios that we bought, the county did the same thing, where they had a low-cost loan and the fire companies foot the bill for that radios. But the new radios are about twice as much as what we paid the last time. So we were paying $3,500 a radio. This time we're in, I think, $5,500 to $6,000 per radio.
So both the fire departments and the borough is going to borrow the money through the county, correct?
Unless we can beat 1.5%
Well,
somewhere
you're
else.
never going to get 1.5% loan, Tony.
Chief Slack. Now, what's the major benefit for the new upgrade? What is it going to do different that we don't have the ability?
Frequency, for one thing.
And what does that mean for us? Why is that better for residents of the borough or just residents of the county?
I'm not, well, at one point, there was the change, actually, the county didn't have to do this initially. It became down, the fire departments requested to stay on the system that we have now. The police departments wanted to change. The police departments won that argument. The county decided to change to the 700 megahertz frequency. So everybody had to migrate over to that in order to be able to talk to each other in a major incident.
So we don't even really know the major benefit of switching over.
I don't know all the technical points on.
Yeah, Bill Ferguson's in the next room. He was here a few months ago, gave us an eloquent explanation. He'd be able to tell you why and how that works with splitting the bands.
Do you see anything? I mean, you've been in law enforcement a long time. Do you see an immediate benefit for the residents of the county?
Well, it's through the whole United States.
No, I understand
We have to
that,
change that. And it's evidently you're saying it's going to offer more space for public safety on these frequencies by splitting them in half.
The other thing that's happened is that initially it was a federal mandate. The federal government stepped back and said that people operating on the band that we were on does not have to do it at this time. The county decided they had invested enough money in it that they were just going to continue on the path regardless of the federal mandate. So we're locked into that.
Mr. President, question for either Mr. Slack or Mr. Porter. It hasn't been too long since we changed radio frequencies before. This is about 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
No, it's a lot longer than that.
It has been?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this part of Homeland Security?
No, this was part of the FCC.
FCC?
I mean, it's a Homeland Security issue because of the interoperability of police, fire, and EMS to be able to talk to each other.
And we're basically looking at $50,000 per fire company.
I'm probably closer to 70.
70. Thank you, Mr.
All right,
President.
anybody else have anything for Arnie or?
I do. Yeah, Arnie, I have some issues on Otter Street, the empty lot across the street from the fields where the kids play. We had this problem a while back. The trucks are starting to park there at nighttime and hang out there. Some of the residents were concerned too that there are some cars with people just pulling up and parking, and I don't know what they're doing, but they're, just parking and hanging out at nighttime for a little while. So if we can get the cops to monitor that area and chase these people away, I think that whole area would appreciate it. That's all I have.
Yeah, follow-ups, Mr. President. I wanted to talk about the problem that happened on Spruce Street. It got volatile, the situation over there. And my curiosity was how many other municipalities were called in for police enforcement during that melee on Spruce Street?
A number, I don't have the exact number,
But we did
nearby.
have other municipalities, correct?
Yes.
How do you, as a police officer, you see something like that coming out, how do you kind of deflect that with constant surveillance up and down the street, driving up and down?
That was,
Starts, you get a phone call, and then
Yeah.
the party enlarges to a very large group, then threats are made, police officer gets punched, there's a threat that they're going to send out a pit bull after one of the dog that we have, Mr. Palmer's, the dog that Mr. Palmer works. I don't want to see this happen again. I want to see if we can be proactive in the police department with this. Like, I know a few of the people I've talked to said that they had called, and I'm wondering if there's a way to put a police officer in that area just to keep a presence. Because when a police presence is around, kind of makes things a little bit more subdued.
well, if we would have been forewarned there was going to be a large party there or a large gathering, we would have adapted to that. But if you don't know it's coming, the officers responded to the call when it came out. And then they did what needed to be done. They asked for
Right.
assistance from the surrounding areas.
My concern is that I heard it from various people that the party just accelerated through the night, and a lot of them were out of town people that came in, which, we're accustomed to with these parties. And to me, it seems like it went from here and it went to here over a matter of an hour or two. And I just want to make sure that if something like that happens again, that we could be on the bus on that, have some presence, police presence, is what I'm asking.
Yes, we will.
Thank you very much.
Tony?
Yeah, I guess I kind of got the same question. It's not just the one incident. I know on Spruce Street, a lot of the residents talk about the same thing. It's deteriorating. So that right there is going to spread from Spruce Street out onto Buckley, down Race, or back over to Corson. So it's going to continue. I mean, just having a police presence there would be very helpful, especially for the residents there. There are a lot of residents there that want to be able to take care of, their properties and have the same types of, abilities that other streets and other wards will have. You know what I mean? So their concern is that they're kind of being neglected. So I think that if we just have a bigger police presence there, it would, it would just be easier for everybody. It would be easier for the police officers because we wouldn't get into, we would squash it before it got too, hectic for our police officers. The next thing is at the baseball fields. I know that we're having all-stars. We're hosting some all-star teams from outside the borough, and from a couple of people that are down there watching the games, people on their porches. There are cars that just blow right through the stop signs. I mean, I know, of course, it happens all over town, but in a high density area, there were people watching games. Kids are across the street to get pizza, back and forth going to cars. I would just like to see, that we have somebody there during those times of baseball games. That we just have somebody there, on foot and just being able to, control that situation a little bit better during those times, during the games. So I don't know if you had any complaints or...
Well, we've had complaints about the traffic problems, and we've posted people there, but we haven't posted them there at every single game.
Right.
The officers are aware of that problem there, and they're very sensitive with the kids playing over there. But to post them there during the entire day, during the entire length of...
Right, no, I understand.
But they are cognizant of those issues at that location.
Right.
At Beaver and Spring, and Jefferson and Spring, and Jefferson and Garden, both.
Right, that's where it was. Jefferson and Spring is where they were talking about. That's it. Thank you, Chief.
Just talk a little bit on this stop sign issue. I talked to Jim about a month ago, and we're trying to find a stop sign that has a beacon on it that keeps flashing. I think it's going to draw your attention to it when you come down past the ball fields. So we're looking into purchasing a couple stop signs. Once we could, I think we located them, but they're very expensive. I don't know, we're trying to figure out how we can do this, but it's an actual stop sign, and on top has a red light, and it just keeps flashing. I think as cars come down, it's going to catch their attention. So just to let you know, we're working on something there. Pat?
Mr. DiGiuseppe, I think that is a great move, especially we could use it during these events at the field, because Memorial Field is probably one of the best fields in Bucks County. It's in demand. It's in a very, it's very dense over there with the population, with the people and stuff, and the cars. Everybody's looking to find a place to park. But I think that if it comes up and we can find these lights, my question is, do they run on batteries or are they electric powered?
I think they're solar.
Solar, that makes it better.
I seen them in some construction. I was driving to Boston, and I seen a couple of them in construction areas. Catches your attention.
Yes, it does.
But I think they're only effective if they're there maybe during the summer and then taken away, because if something's there every day, you get used to the same thing and you don't pay attention to it. But
Now, are they movable, Mr. DiGiuseppe?
I'm sure. I mean, I don't know, Pat, I seen it on the road.
Yeah, I know.
So I know Jim's looking into it.
Okay.
And I know we had to talk to PennDOT because there's some issues with stop signs. They got to approve them and things like that, so. But I told them, like I said, about a month ago to start working on that because when I was down the field, same thing. You see cars just coming down Jefferson Avenue without stopping. And then they could be used in other areas. So I think it's a good investment no matter what the cost is.
I think it's a great investment.
Just a matter of finding them and getting them approved.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have anything else for the chief? Tony, what do you have?
No, that was the question I had for the chief. Oh, you mean just finish now with the chief, and now what do I have in the ward?
Or anything?
Yeah. Also, the field, you have that on there. Who's in charge of cleanup? Because I know with the All-Star games that are going down there, a lot of residents were, some people sent me pictures from the North Ward that the trash cans get filled up pretty quickly and they overflow, and then there's garbage kind of strewn, all over the, all over the ballpark facility. Not necessarily the field itself, but the, surrounding area near the trash cans. Who would be responsible? Is that our borough workers that take care of that?
It's a combination of the guys that run the league. If it's overflowing, there's a dumpster there that they'll dump them in. I think our borough workers share some of the chores, and I think Leo at some point, I think Leo's son is now, but I think they're done as of now, I don't know.
Well, I guess basically it would be more during when these tournaments and games are going on. So I guess that should fall more on the guys that are running the, Little League field or the operation up there.
Jim said he'll find out tomorrow.
Okay. The second thing I have over there, again at the baseball field, is the playground that we have over there there's a ton of weeds and grass that's growing through it. So I don't know if we can get somebody out there to pull them, spray them. I would rather see if we could pull them instead of spraying them since the kids are going to be playing on there. But, it just doesn't look good. I mean, it's like a $90,000 playground. And the last thing is just an update that on, I don't know exactly what day, but over the weekend, there was another ball, a girls softball team, that was, a home run was hit, and it hit the sliding board in the playground in the air. So, there's another incident that that I would rather see. Luckily, it was kind of raining, and none of the kids were in the playground playing. Now, I don't want to turn this into another, like, you got to stand on your soapbox and make it a big deal, but there is an inherent danger, I understand, for the regular people who are watching games, but the kids on that playground are going to be at risk, and we're going to be responsible for it. That's it. Now, I don't expect Buster to come in here, next week and say, I'm sure it was a ground rule double, you know what I mean? But there are witnesses that says what it is a home run in the air. Luckily, no kids were there playing, and it hit the sliding board in the air. So it was a shot. So, I hope that we decide to do something on that, but I'm only just reporting, making an update. I guess I have some questions for Mr. Salerno. Mr. Salerno, actually, Mr. DiGiuseppe, do you mind if I ask Mr. Salerno a couple questions?
That's fine.
Mr. Salerno, just for the record, could you let the residents of the borough know how much we paid Mr. Oslick for the special counsel?
I'm sorry.
Could you let the borough residents know how much did we have to pay special counsel, Mr. Oslick?
How much you have to pay?
The borough had to pay.
Borough won't pay him anything. It's paid from the escrow fund from the developer, just like I would have been paid from any developer.
Okay.
The developer puts up an escrow fund at the beginning of the process, and the engineer and the attorney are paid out of it. And when it's depleted, they have to put more money into it. so the borough never pays anything out of it.
The second question, and again, I mean, I don't want to come off accusatory, but it's just something that's, you know, it's interesting to me. Now, what reason would you have to represent Mr. DiGiuseppe personally? What would be a reason that you would do that?
Mr. Devine, that's privilege between me and my clients, okay? There's no reason why this council needs to know why I represent Mr. DiGiuseppe. The fact of the matter is, I represented him on another matter not related to this subdivision, and it could be argued that I didn't have to recuse myself, but I did. I thought it was the right thing to do, and so special counsel was appointed. It doesn't cost the taxpayers anything, and it looks better, because you seem to be interested in that.
I am interested in that. Now, the other question I was wondering is, do you represent any other members on council outside of a personal level?
I'm not privileged to answer that. If a conflict comes up, I'll reveal it.
Well, I guess, the point that I want to make is, to me, there is a conflict. Like, in a situation like that, I would hope that you would say, you know, to whoever asks you, myself included, if I ask you to represent me on something, there would be a conflict. You know, there are...
What's a conflict?
A conflict of representing somebody on council and then do it personally.
It's not a conflict for me to represent somebody on council. Solicitors have always done that. I can represent. I just can't represent the borough regarding something that council person brings before council. That would be a conflict.
So there's nothing ethically questionable about representing somebody on council in a personal matter?
Absolutely not. You're saying that if somebody, Mrs. Trinnell, wants me to draft her will, I can't do that? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I'm just asking you a question.
Well, no, you're accusing me of acting unethically, and I don't appreciate it.
No, I wasn't accusing you. I prefaced that by I didn't want to be accusatory.
I answered your question. It's not a conflict for me to represent somebody on council.
Thanks, Mr. Sherman. I guess the last question I have is for Mr. Dillon. Mr. Dillon, could you tell me why council wasn't informed about Mr. DiGiuseppe's subdivision plans prior to the June meeting? And there were a bunch of other people who were, and I thought it would be important that council would be, you know, kept up to speed with what was going on, since we had a vote on that ordinance prior to his subdivision plans.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
When Mr. DiGiuseppe's plans went to the Bucks County Planning Commission, you were aware of his plans. I was just wondering why we weren't, as a council, included in knowing what was going on. Like, you know, that this was in the pipeline, there was going to be something that, an ordinance that we were going to amend was going to directly affect it. I was just wondering why we weren't, you know, made aware of that prior to voting on it.
Tony, I think the question you said last week sums this whole questioning up. If it was any other developer, you wouldn't have a problem with it, but since it's me, you do. So I think you answered your own question for everybody. And the plans, I followed the procedure. They went from my engineer to the borough's engineer to the county's planning commission. They send back a review letter. I met all the requirements for the Bucks County Planning Commission and for our own planning commission. When that process is done, just like over the last X amount of years in this borough, then they send over to council for either preliminary or preliminary final vote, and at that point it's up to council. I requested 0 variance for this project. I need nothing to build these homes. And you said yourself last week, if it was any other builder, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Instead of saying, thank you for building homes and investing in Bristol and keep moving this town forward, you have a problem. It's a personal thing. So I really don't care what your opinion is.
Right. Well, absolutely, it's
okay.
Not
so what else do you have?
The last question again is for Mr. Dillon.
He doesn't get the plans. The plans get submitted.
This is for Mr. Dillon. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Mr. DiGiuseppe. Mr. Dillon. Now, when special counsel was hired, you hired special counsel. Is that something that you have the ability to do without the consent of counsel?
I've done it in the past. If council wants to make it a policy that I can't do it in the future, that's fine with me. I thought I was acting properly, and I think I was acting properly. The solicitor advised me he had a conflict, and I contacted an outside counsel. The outside counsel will be paid for with funds from the developer. No tax money will be used.
I think if Mr. Salerno heard the case, you'd be sitting here accusing him of listening to my case.
No, that's not what I was asking. I was asking if, the only question that was for Mr. Dillon was just to see, I want to know how it works. I've been here a year and a half.
I'd be happy to answer any of your emails if you want to come in. You know, I just think you were just doing it for public, purposes right now.
No, it just happened because that's what the
That's
meetings...
my opinion.
No, that's what the meetings are for, absolutely, it's for public purpose.
Well, and may I make a quick comment? We have another local contractor who very shortly was
Mrs.
being...
Turnell, I don't mean to be rude, but I was still talking with Mr. Dillon.
So that I can't comment.
I think Mr. DiGiuseppe made it clear that he's going to let us know when we could...
Okay, well, let's finish with what you have.
That's it for today, thanks. Oh, no, I got one more question. Is the vote that we had last month for the subdivision plans, it was 3-0. Do we have enough to pass that? I just want to make sure that we're doing everything, by the book. Do we have enough votes to pass that?
In my opinion, yes. You want me to get a written opinion from the special counsel?
I'm not paying for it. Tony could pay for it.
No, I don't think I have to pay for it. I think it's fair to ask that question. I mean, we want to make sure that we're doing it, right? There was only 3 votes. I don't know if we need a majority or not. That's why I was asking.
Need a majority of those present, so the answer is yes, it was approved properly.
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sepp.
May I comment now, please? May I have the floor? All I was going to try to say was that we have another local contractor who's coming in to serve on council, and I just hope that we as a council don't hold people simply because you sit on council. I don't want to hold them to any kind of a standard that any other general contractor wouldn't be held to in this town. I just think it's important that everybody gets a fair shake to do business. I do business in this town, and I just don't want to discourage business people from running for council because they'd say, oh, no, because if I do this or if I do that, then they'll criticize me. So that was going to be my only comment.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, can I address that comment?
I didn't see your arm was up, Tony.
Yeah, well. Mr. Chanel, could you just be careful what you're saying because you're being kind of hypocritical of something that you said before earlier, that we hold ourselves to a higher standard.
I was talking directly to you that night. No, you don't listen. You don't listen. That's not what I was saying. No, you don't. No, you don't.
I can tell you.
I said, I hope that we hold contractors to the same standard simply because they sit on council. I hope that a contractor who comes in here, that Dave Gerard is not up to complete scrutiny for every roof that the man puts on simply because he's on council. And yes, Tony, we are held to a higher standard on this council. I will stand by that.
Pat.
Yes, one item, in driving over, I know, Mr. Dillon, this is just for the building and grounds. Where the old playground was on 2nd Avenue, and I know it's tough for the borough crew right now with all the rain and the way that the grass is growing fast and faster and faster. But at 2nd Avenue and Green, where the old playground used to be, there's a little attention needs to be given there. Looks like, Mr. Dillon, looks like it's just basic weed whacking and stuff like that and cleanup. And I'm sure you know where that's at. It's right on that corner on 2nd Avenue and Green. on the left-hand side coming down from Route 13.
Parking area, right?
Yes, thank you. That's all I have.
Betty?
Yeah, I'm going to go by the playground on Otter Street because I heard one of the parts of, I don't know if it's the slide or whatever is broken, but it was brought to my attention this weekend, so I'm going to, because of the rain, I haven't had a chance to go over and check it out, but I'll go check it out and let you know, Mr. Dillon, what exactly is broken over there. Also, I know that you got an email from me today about the tree on Wilson Street, and I know you send out a letter. As soon as you know that they're going to respond, let me know, because the neighbors over there are a little
No,
concerned.
we're checking, we're keeping an eye on it.
Okay, just let me know.
If it was
Just- I know
immediate
you will.
danger, I would say we could attack it.
Yeah, I know.
but
Just keep me posted, just so I can respond properly, and I'm sure you would anyway. We spoke about some stop signs on the alleys of Locust Street and Maple Street. I know you're working on them. I just want the people over there to know that we are going to work on it, and I told them there was a little protocol on that, and as soon as we can and we do what we have to do properly, we'll get that done. There's a light on Maple Street that's closer to, it's right by the alley that, I don't know if it's just a dim light or we've never changed it to the bright lights that we need to check into over there. And do we know anything about the website? Is it up or is it still down or
It's up.
it's up now? Okay.
And it's been
should've checked.
redone,
Okay, I should have checked. I didn't.
approved, I believe, is,
Okay,
Feeling.
and then on Locust Street, there's a stop sign there that needs a white line. You know how some of them have the white line in front of it? I don't know, for some reason, sometimes the people don't see the stop sign, but they see the white line
where was that day? I'm sorry.
on Locust Street. And the light, we got the light, we got the paint. Last but not least, just to let everyone know that on July 28th is Puerto Rican Day, and the Puerto Ricans of Bristol and all over will be celebrating at the river. Please come join for some good food and some great music. And I just wanted to throw that out there on behalf of the Puerto Rican Culture Association.
Just one thing, I got an email regarding a sinkhole or possible sinkhole at the corner of Penn and Wood Street, and I wonder if Mr. Dillon could send George Waldron out to take a quick look at it. That's all.
The only thing, I don't really have anything either tonight, but I do have a couple of things. One, just for the record, I started in business 40 years ago, way before I became a council member of this borough. And I do that for a living. It's not a hobby for me to go out and build homes or renovate homes. And I've worked for numerous people in town, out of town, and all over Bucks County. And the same opportunity I have is the same opportunity anybody sitting on this council has, or in this borough. When ground becomes available, if you want to invest your money, you go purchase the ground and you develop it and you go through the process and you try to sell the ground. Sometimes it's a plus, sometimes it's a minus. I mean, I'm sitting on 15 building lots right now. So, I mean, to give the perception that something's being done wrong or attorneys are sitting here, it's really disheartening and for degrading because it's an embarrassment. I do this for a living, and I challenge anybody to question my integrity for anything I ever did in this town, because it's been nothing but first class, and I bring a ton of tax revenue. I can invest anywhere. I don't need to live in Bristol. I don't need to build in Bristol. I don't need to work in Bristol. But I choose to because I consider this town my home. And anything I can do to improve this town, I do it. But I also make a profit on doing it. So I'm not doing it for nothing. But don't sit here and question my integrity about lawyers and following procedures, because I have the spotlight on me more than any developer or contractor in this town. We bend over backwards for other developers or contractors that want to come in and try to do something to improve this town. I never ask for one favor from this borough. I pay my permits, I pay my engineers, I do whatever the recommendations are, and I move forward. So when you want to sit here and criticize, it's starting to take offense to it. If you want to make an accusation that something's illegal, make it, and then we'll see each other in court and see who's going to win. Bobby, what do you have? I have nothing. Bobby, what do you have? Jim?
On Monday evening, I anticipate receiving a request from the developer of NovaCare requesting an extension of time. There was a memo in your file explaining the status of it. So I anticipate, like I said, an extension request placed before council on Monday evening. Also in your packet was a copy of the 5-year Economic Development Strategic Action Plan. Council met about 2 weeks ago, and the committee went through the entire plan with council, and on the agenda for Monday evening, it would be a motion to accept the 5-year Economic Development Strategic Action Plan. And also, for next Monday, there'll be a motion to authorize the execution of the agreement with the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission as per their June 10th letter, which was enclosed. And I believe that's all I have at this time.
Okay, I have one more thing that I want to discuss. Every year in August, because of the church carnival, we move our meeting because mostly everybody's involved in it or has some kind of part in it. So instead of a meeting on the 5th and the 12th, I'm recommending that we meet on the 19th, have a work session and a regular meeting. So if there's any agenda items that day, we could do a work session, say for an hour or so, and then if there's any motions to be voted on, we could turn it into a regular council meeting and vote. So we'll meet once in August on the 19th, and if that's not good for anybody, then we'll, Tony?
Well, I think if I don't have a problem doing that, but could we add maybe an extra hour with Matt, because we only have a 2-hour block?
I'm sure he could run one meeting for 3 hours, because that's all we're going to have that month, instead of 2 meetings. Or he could run, if the meeting lasts 4 hours, we'll go 4 hours. We have 2 2-hour time slots. So I'm sure if the meeting's 3 hours, we'll just run that one meeting for 3 straight hours.
Gotcha.
Right now it's 45 minutes, and we're almost done.
Yeah, I absolutely don't have a problem with doing it one day. I just want
So
to
we'll do it, if everybody's in agreement, we'll meet on the 19th of August, where we can meet the 19th and the 26th, if you think we need 2 meetings.
Now, that's pushing it too far, I think, to the end of the month.
Yeah, and then no, that's fine, the 19th is fine.
19th is fine, all in one night?
Yeah.
Okay. Public participation. Anybody on this side of the room would like to, Alan, state your name and address for the record?
Hi, my name is Ellen Callahan. I live at 208 Buckley Street in Bristol. I'm going to bring up something that I know you guys have batted around for a while, and that's adding someone to our inspection department. It must be the weather, it's warm, so I go out more. And I've noticed a lot of empty houses, some of which are bank-owned because of foreclosures, that need routine maintenance, grass cut, things like that. I've noticed other houses which are empty, they're either trying to be sold or people just decide they don't want to live there. I don't know what the reason is. Some of those are literally falling apart. It's very hard for Mr. Miller to handle this entire town all on his own. So in the meantime, we have certain things that are falling by the wayside because he's only one guy. And I think it would help if even we got somebody part-time, would help us out with things, because there are certain areas in town that are really getting bad looking. I was hoping Greg was here tonight too, because his no living room sets on the front porch ordinance needs to be enforced too.
Well, I think if somebody calls the borough, you don't have to give your name and just give out addresses. John will go out. We can't find everything on even if we hire an inspector, it's almost impossible for him to find every yard.
Oh, I know.
So it's easier for residents, and we've been saying, is to call in and say, I just want to give an address on whatever street it's on. And John will be out there the same day, I can tell you that.
I understand, but I just think that at some time, because of the things we want to do with the town, as far as cleaning it up and a little more development,
Right.
we're going to have to look into that at some point.
No, there's no question. This council knows we need to
Okay.
hire somebody.
All right, good. Thanks.
And just for the record, since you brought it up, Greg is on vacation, away or sick,
He's
and
sick.
Leo's on vacation.
I'm James Burton.
Hey,
You know me, yeah,
I know you.
226 Monroe Street.
yeah,
We might get put a require out for trash, right? Tomorrow, will they take it?
We have a requirement for
Recliner,
trash.
a chair. Will they take it?
yeah, I'll take it if you put it out.
Another thing, I want the adult, the adult basketball
Adult basketball?
back in the borough.
Okay.
I'll play.
Oh, I know you'll play. You're good, too. Right? I know. Thanks, Jimmy. Okay, anybody else on this side of the room would like to speak on anything? Merle?
I just wanted to make everybody aware, since we've had all this rain, we've had several occasions where the Green Lane Railroad Bridge has been underwater. And I was out there the other night for about 2.5 hours. We had the fire police out and had George bring barricades out. And there was a woman that got stuck in her car, and she had to be rescued from underneath the bridge because the car stalled out and she couldn't get out of the car. After we got the barricades up, and the fire police had left the scene, I was still there, and I was sitting on the Wilson Avenue side of the bridge, and all of a sudden I see headlights in my rearview mirror, and here comes a pickup truck through the water. The car was still there because the tow service couldn't get in to pick it up. The water was still that deep. So here comes the pickup truck, and I pulled my vehicle across the road so they couldn't get around me real fast and take off. And I got out of the truck and walked back, and it was a young lady driving the vehicle, and she had a child next to her and another male passenger on the other side. And I just looked at her and I said, "Do you realize what you just did?" I said, "There was a car stuck under that bridge. A woman had to be rescued." And she said, "Well, I had to go get my car. It's at Wawa." And I said, "Well, there are several ways that you could go around this particular location to get your car back." And they don't realize how dangerous it is. I mean, we have standing water you don't want to drive through because you never know what happened to the surface below the water. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. It's a dangerous thing. When we put those barricades up, they're there for a purpose. They're not there as an obstacle course for you to just go around. So I hope everybody pays attention to this and yields to the barricades or to the people out there.
May I address Merle, is there any kind of a fine? I agree with you. I see it, and literally people, I sit at my window at Canal's End when the parking lot floods, and they get out of their cars and they move the barriers and they go through.
I know
Can I take their license plate?
There was talk of a bill that was going through Pennsylvania's legislature to do just that, but I have to follow up with Senator Tomlinson's office to see what happened to that bill. It was, if you had barricades up and you went around them, you could be subject to fine. And I think they were trying to get that in place so that even the fire police could issue a ticket on that. But no, it's a dangerous situation, and they need to realize what's going on.
Well, part of the danger too is that they move the barricades so that they can go through, and then everybody after them, Merle, goes through,
Right.
so. Yeah.
Since the incident happened, I was in touch with Mr. Dillon, and we're trying to get something through PennDOT or the state that maybe we could get some kind of a warning device up there, some red blinking lights or whatever, and they're in the process now of looking into that. The only other thing I had was the Amtrak we were contacted, Mr. Dillon and I went out and met with Amtrak representative on the Spruce Street area, and they are going to address the bridges now. They're going to come in and start repairs on the bridges, and they're going to start with Spruce Street first. And what they're going to do is they're going to put a fenced-in compound to put their equipment and their vehicles in while they're here in town to work on these bridges. They're going to fence off Spruce Street and all the way down to Pine and across, and that's going to be their area. They'll clean that out, and they're going to install, and keep in mind now, this is a different department that's doing this particular project. So this is going to be the third different type of fence that we have in the borough. And this fence probably should have been the general fence that they used for all of the projects. It's a black iron fence, and it has, it curves out at the top so to keep you from scaling it to get over the other side, and it's 8 foot. I have a picture here, I'll give it to you, you can take a look at it. This is what they're planning on doing there. I don't think it's an offensive looking fence, it's black.
No, good.
And it sure beats, what they're looking at on Garden Street.
Change Garden Street, Merle?
I don't know, because they put that fence up on Garden Street. That was a different department that came out to do that, and each one of the departments has their own budgets. And we asked, Mr. Dillon asked them how long it would be before they would be getting the fence up. The first process was they send out their surveyor to make sure that the fence is going to go on their property. And they've done that. They've put stakes in out there. I've seen them. I've taken pictures. And then they'll issue a contract to a contractor to do the fence for them. Then they'll put that up. They're not going to give us any keys to the gates. If there's a problem, fire department goes in, they cut the locks or they cut the fence, and to get in for whatever the emergency would be. They couldn't give us a timeline. They said it would be 90 days probably for the fence to be installed. And we don't know how long it's going to take them to do the bridges. They probably have money budgeted. They told us when we first inquired in 2010 that the Spruce Street Bridge was going to be budgeted for 2012. Now we're in 2013, and they're going to start the project. How far it's going to go, how many bridges they're going to do, they couldn't tell us. So.
Well, I know that you put a lot of time into these bridges personally. I know Councilman Musey, it started back with him in 2010 when you guys were trying to get the bridges with PennDOT, so I'm glad you're staying on top of it. Pat?
Yes, Mr. President. Merrill, we had talked on the phone. I was supposed to get in touch with you and meet you. I just got jammed up. I had to take my son somewhere. When I walked from Pine Street to Spruce Street, I seen the points where they laid out for the surveying. Those points, is that where they're going to be putting up the fence? Because they're very close, and I always thought that that property belonged to Bristol Borough as paper streets.
No, when they originally put the railroad through Bristol and they were going to do the elevated embankments, they had bought property up. And at the time, there used to be houses in the area where the tracks and all are now, and they were all bought up. And the sizes of the properties were different. And how I found that out was when we first started doing the bank clearing project, they sent me out a copy of all of the track measurements and where the property lines end. And it's measured from each side. It goes off the top rail that the train runs on. So on this side, it would be track 1, the first rail. And they measure it out and then down.
And what is that measurement?
Well, they're different.
Oh,
In some spots,
so it
they're
varies.
70 feet off the rail. Some spots, they're 25 feet off the rail. It depends.
Wow.
So in that particular area where they measure it out, where they put the stakes, that's where they intend to put the fence. So. Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room? Anybody on this side of the room? Can I get a motion?
Wait.
Chief.
Me and the chief.
Just one more item. My officers have asked me to remind the public to please clearly mark your house numbers. So when they respond, or fire or EMS responds, that they can do so in a very quick manner. John Miller reminded me that the ordinance says 4-inch high minimum for numbers on your house, so please, reflectively even better. So get those numbers on so we can get to your house as quickly as we can.
And very quickly, if you don't mind, there was a project that I neglected to mention down in Lions Park, and I think Matt is going to put it for the people on TV to be able to see, and, you know, the general public can't see the picture here, but down at the very end, right at where the river meets the marsh area, there was a terminus, and you may or may not know what I'm talking about, but it's kind of a big round area of broken concrete, and it's interesting because so often I'm down there at the park, and people will comment like, "Look at this is," and they don't get that is the part of the historic terminus that was there that benefited the locks when they emptied and filled for the ships going down the Delaware. So it really was getting into be a pretty bad state. All of the bricks were there, but the bricks were starting to lift. Kids were starting to throw them in the river. They were loose. Somebody was going to trip and fall. Mr. Dillon took the initiative and had Joe Segola go down there, and he has cemented in around where the bricks are. So you may not see aesthetically the difference, but it really does look much nicer. And it's another way for us to preserve the history that we have in this town, which you can't buy. You know, we've earned our age and our history. So just if you're down there, take a look. And if you see Joe Segola, thank him for his expert concrete work. And now I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second.
Okay.
Second, my friend.
I said, let's